Hello and welcome back to Campo Largo. We will be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after, I believe, his name is Elder Heartly, and the person that's with him, Elder Suárez, the snake, were discussing with I forgot what they're called. Um, I guess you could call them sort of like their supervisors. Um, who they're going to be speaking with next, and that person, I believe, is somebody that was discussing a lot with the previous elders and people of that nature. Um, like the whole like sort of Mormon thing, and he seemed very interested in it. But then I believe they just stopped, and then after the Mormon presence within the area disappeared, he just sort of stopped contacting them. So yeah, I don't remember if they call him the golden ticket or like the person that was just very interested in. Because I know there's two options, but I know that there's only one route available, and that would be this person. And if you saw on HIO, if you happen to follow Campo Largo or the Blue Sky account or whatever, you kind of probably already know who it is, or at the very least you've seen their sprite. But yeah, um, that's pretty much it. So aside from that, the main character, Elder Hartley, the deer that you see right here, um, pretty much the picture of a of a normal Mormon person. And for the beginning part, which I guess you could call like literally all of the previous, I hesitate to call them chapters, but the previous days is pretty much what the Mormons do day to day when they're on their mission, which is to try to find people, try to bring them into the Mormon church, and try to find people that used to be in the Mormon church or were interested, and try to bring them into the Mormon church again. And that's pretty much what they do. And it was kind of funny because they kept encountering people that were telling them like, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Catholic, yeah, I'm not gonna convert, I'm a Catholic. Um, but yeah, like, and they also encountered what's the other one? Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was also pretty funny. Um, but yeah, you also might be wondering, why are you doing this one if it appears just to be like Mormon stuff? Nothing really happening aside from detailing the average life of a Mormon person. Because there will be something happening, and there were little hints here and there throughout the story, and a very big hint when they're doing like their little study of what might be happening. But yeah. Anyways, so let's stop the rambling and let's continue with the story. Oh, and also, yeah, this is the first fully completed route. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, without further ado, let us begin that part, route, whatever. Why not try this old investigator? Sounds great. We pencil in the plan in the appropriate hours and turn to tally up the numbers for the week. Not as great as we'd hoped, but it's not bad for the first full week in a formally closed area. Plus, we always fall short of our goals, that's just how it goes. Once we've got our numbers, we close the planning meeting with a short prayer, then we wait for the zone leaders to call for the weekly report. Shortly after 2200, the phone rings. Hola, Elderes. ¿Cómo les pasa? Ah, there's that accent. It's great. Pretty good here. And how's Elder Suárez? The snake leans in. Doing well, Elder. Good, good. Great to hear. Got your numbers? EC. 0 investigators baptized and confirmed, 0 investigators with a baptismal date, 0 investigators attending sacrament meetings, 0 lessons with a member present. Hey, come on, it's only been a week. We're working on it. And you haven't heard the rest yet. I clear my throat. 12 other lessons, 4 contacted referrals, 15 new investigators. Wee! ¿Qué capos ustedes? That's a compliment. I knew that'd be coming. Thanks. And 5 lessons with less active members. And one of those families came to church today, including the mother who hadn't been to church in a decade, and we just barely had a lesson with them yesterday. Well done, Elderis. I'm sure you'll keep it up. See you tomorrow for a trip to Conquista? Y sí pues, see you tomorrow. Thank you for your work. Chaucito. Ciao ciao. I hang up the phone and slump back, a satisfied grin on my face. I throw up my arms in celebration. I think back to the trepidation that I felt on the bus a mere 10 days ago. All that anxiety, all that doubt, turns out they were unfounded. I've got a really good feeling about this transfer. Servo. Chapter 1. January 14th, 2008, Monday. After finishing up our side-by-side personal study hour, we're out of the pinch by 900 hours, as always. The sun is casting shadows to the southwest, warming our backs in a preview of the inevitable afternoon heat, when I hope our bus will have operational AC. We leave our front door behind, making our way to Avenida Oro Blanco, the town's main street, leading from the highway to the cemetery, its two concrete lanes split by a sidewalk paved medium. And from there, to the address of our former investigator, Ivan Drubek. If the age estimate from the elders of 7 years past is accurate, he's probably in his mid-30s by now. As for the species box, they only wrote bird. They could have at least put avian, though at least they didn't guess and get it wrong, especially if they didn't know his species name in Spanish. And no detailed notes on Hermano Drubek's responses to the complete set of discussions he'd received. And I can't get over the fact that he received all of the missionary discussions. Elder Suárez pads along beside me in the dust of the road. I saw him independently pull out the same teaching record this morning, studying it. So, did you notice Hermano Drubek had a baptismal date planned? Of course, it's hard to miss something like that. But they didn't write that symbol for baptized across the whole page, and he's not in the branch directory. I'd seen the symbol scrawled triumphantly across a number of teaching records in Puerto Mocavi. A line forming 3 cartoon waves, the last curve looping up and around and back and down through the waves, with a downward arrow taking the plunge at its tip. It's unofficial and a bit too focused on the ordinance over conversion, but it's still common, kind of like the tradition of calling one's missionary trainer one's father. Traditions of the fathers leading us astray indeed. What do you think happened? Elder Suárez narrows his eyes for a moment, pensively examining the middle distance. Well, the way that I see it, there are a couple of options. 1, the record could just be incomplete. You've mentioned your frustration at poor record takers. I had grumbled about that once or twice, yes. Or maybe there's something that went missing. I'd wondered the same thing, some lost or misplaced record. 2, maybe he stopped investigating for some unknown or unmentioned reason. 3, Elder Knudsen said that the missionaries were removed from Campo Largo about 7 years ago. That's about when Hermano Drubek was investigating. Perhaps their removal prevented his baptism. That one seemed somewhat questionable. You'd think that they'd find a way to arrange for the baptism of an interested investigator even without full-time missionaries in the town. Maybe elders from Arumbura could visit. Something whispers in my head that perhaps the casual arrow runs the other way. Perhaps something involving Drubek got the missionaries removed. But wouldn't something like that be in the records? 4, perhaps he was baptized, but then later was excommunicated. Okay, I'll admit that I hadn't considered that. Excommunications aren't that common. They're typically requiring a serious transgression, domestic abuse for instance, or embezzling church funds. There was one former bishop in my home ward, one in a series of disgraced leaders, who'd been excommunicated years prior for a homosexual relationship. Every Sunday, though, he was still there, letting the sacrament tray pass by when it came to him, seated beside his wife. Yeah, all of those sound plausible. It's too bad that we don't have more information to work from. I had thought that we could ask Presidente Vargas, but he probably wouldn't know. He was a teenager at the time, after all. Yeah, and if it was a sensitive matter especially. We'll just have to listen to the spirit. Yeah, I suppose so. There's not much else to say, though. I must admit that the morning is beautiful in its way. We pass by the main plaza, Catholic parish to our left, and I catch a whiff of that ever-present smell of smoke on the breeze. I don't know exactly where it come from. Perhaps clearing weeds in the surrounding fields, perhaps ovens in the town. I knew one hermana whose oven was an oil barrel mounted on a brick base and fired by wood. Her pizzas, with homemade dough and sauce and so-called creamy cheese, were delectable. We pass by the branch building and half a block later come to the swath of green cut through nearly every Llana town, the railroad tracks. Only a couple of streets cross the tracks over the length of the town. There are no warning gates or bells, and only a concrete slab as a makeshift platform. There's probably a half-abandoned railroad station a ways down, but because we rarely walk along the lawn that buffers the tracks from the town, we haven't seen it yet. Otherwise, the two sets of tracks are nearly buried in the vegetation, the green interrupted in a couple of places by blue and white memorials to the nation, its veterans a past war. According to a newspaper article my grandparents had sent me earlier in my mission, railroads in Llana were the lifeblood of the province from the settlement until a president privatized the rail in 1994, I think. In the absence of government support, the majority of passenger rail traffic evaporated, replaced by trucks and intercity buses. I'm not sure if there's even a train that comes through here. If there is, I haven't seen it yet. But the rails remain, a reminder of the past left behind. And they stretch out in both directions, parallel straight paths, iron wrought, diminishing in perfect, uninterrupted one-point perspective to the uncannily flat horizon. We come to the road that fronts the rails on their eastern side, Calle Belgrano. If I read the address correctly, Drupik's house is just down this road somewhere, facing the rails itself. We turn right and I begin counting the blocks. From Avenida Oro Blanco, we go 5 blocks to Tucuman, and the address said that his house is between here and the next street, Potosi. We might just have to clap around to ask for directions. Ready to golpear a bit, Elder? He responds with his understated grin, quoting a common mission-themed hymn. I'll go where you want me to go. We make it halfway down the block looking for any signs that might point us to the right house without clapping when I spot a house with promise. Just past the garage labeled Taller Alvarez, we repair motos with a list of relevant brands. There is a house with an addition in front and a small grayish car parked alongside, someone's home. The addition goes right up to the zanja, with a concrete building over the ditch to the wooden front door. As I step across, I spot quite the surprise. There appears to be a doorbell here. The button is screwed onto the frame of the front door, and the cord snagging from it into the house gives me hope that it is unbelievably operational. I haven't used a doorbell since I left the States. I press a finger against it and satisfyingly, my ears detect a small ringing sound inside, probably farther into the house, where a knock might not be audible. I step back so as not to be in the face of whoever opens the door. Elder Suárez stands on my left, a column of dark scales. A voice, a tenor, sounds from similarly deep within the house. Ya vengo. I'm coming. As I surmised, someone's home, awake, and open to a guest at this hour. If this is Ivan, even better. I stand up a little straighter and ready, a smile on my face, set to give a good first impression. The door unlatches and swings open. A figure who opens it sports a polished black beak, slightly iridescent black head feathers, and white scaled arms outlined in black. He's clad in a light long-sleeve button-down shirt, half a head shorter than me and even more slender. Behind him, I can divine what looks like an office of sorts, a desk, shelf units, documents. He starts speaking before he gets a look at us. "Good morning. How can I help?" Then his eyes go wide in surprise, but that expression quickly gives way to transparent delight. "Elderis, it's been so long!" Before I can manage to raise my hand to wave a greeting, he snatches it in his, shaking it energetically. He leans in to get a good look at my name tag. "Elder Heartly, good to meet you." He pronounces it right on the first go, though with an accent. Done pumping my arm up and down, he turns to greet my companion. Again, he inspects the name tag. "Elder Suárez, a pleasure, a pleasure." The snake returns a handshake. I'll admit, it kind of catches me off guard. I've never had this reception from a non-member, and seldom even from members for whom missionaries are a fixture of everyday life. I'm unable to get another thought in, though, because... come in, take a seat." He waves us in. So, he might be Ivan. Either way, I'm not gonna waste a friendly face. I accept the invitation and step into his office. He indicates 2 chairs in front of the desk, and I take the farther one. Elder Suárez slips into the other, sliding his tail into the hole in its backrest. "Let me get you something. Hold on a minute." The avian vanishes through the door in the back of his office with a flick of his feathery fantail. In his absence, we exchange another glance, halfway between pleasantly surprised and perplexed. Then I take the opportunity to inspect the room in which we find ourselves. A basic wooden desk sits in front of us, a rotating office chair behind it. Papers cover a large portion of the desk's surface, though a couple of books are stacked along either side. The wall behind the desk features a number of certificates in frames. Squinting, I can see that they're credentials of a sort. Daring a bit, I stand up and lean over the desk to get a closer look at the subject matters. Bioenergetics, reads one. Another is dream interpretation. Yet another is numerology alongside hypnosis. Oh boy. My gaze darts back to the small flyer that I noted on the desk. Consultas Drubeck. Parapsicológico, licenciado. Conoce tu verdad. Translated, Drubeck Consultations, licensed parapsychologist. Learn your truth. I look over at Elder Suárez and note that he's scanned the same text. When our eyes meet, he raises an eyebridge in an unspoken question. You run into all sorts on the mission. This guy is going to be very interesting. Also, we've got the right surname. The chance that this guy is Ivan is now around 95%. While I'm standing, I turn around to look at the rest of the small room. Nearly every other wall surface is occupied by bookshelves, and they are all full. I've never seen so many books in one place in Parana. I can make out some titles. A good number probably fit with this area of, study. Others appear to be general religion. I see a Catholic catechism and the Jehovah's Witnesses Bible translation next to a book whose title is mostly Kabbalah. And there, too, is the unmistakable profile of the Mormon triple combination, in which the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and the Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price are all bound together. Well, he is a peculiar avian. Few are investigators who have a triple combination instead of just the garden variety, cheap printed Book of Mormon that we hand out. I can still count the number of such investigators that I've known on one hand, despite having a Hoover's 3 fingers. One was Hermana Perpetua, who attended church on and off for 20 years in Puerto Mogavi but never got baptized. The other 2 are the snake and the avian currently in this house. I sit down as the avian bustles through the door, bearing a tray. On the tray are balanced a bowl of cookies, the bagged, assorted cookies everyone seems to have on hand for drop-in guests, and 2 tumblers of orange soda. He lays a tray on the edge of the desk facing us. There you go. I know it's still early in your day, but You certainly still need hydration and nourishment. It's hot in the summer, but you know that, of course. Well, thank you. I pluck a pink frosted cookie out of the bowl and crunch off a corner with my teeth. By the way. Oh yes, what is it? Would you happen to be one Ivan Drubek? Wending his way around the desk, to his chair behind it, he guffaws and smacks his forehead with a palm. Ha! Of course, yes, that's me. I'm so silly. I forgot to introduce myself. It's just so exciting to have missionaries back again. I return a smile, intending reassurance and reflecting his apparent good humor. Oh, that's fine. There was a preponderance of evidence suggesting your identity, but I wanted to be sure. Drubek chuckles as he falls back into his seat. He rolls the chair forward to lean both arms on his desk. I cannot but imagine that if he had visible ears, like long feathery ones griffins have in fantasy illustrations, they'd be perked forward. Elder Suárez trades off the lead of the social interaction. It's great to meet you, hermano. We're new in town, but we had records that mentioned that you'd met with the missionaries before and wanted to see if you were still around. He opens his beak in a broad smile, unseen ear to unseen ear. Well, I'm still here. Welcome to Campo Largo. I hope it's giving you a good impression so far. I shrug with my own smile. It's a pretty nice little town, seems to me. Elder Suárez nods in agreement. Excellent, excellent. We're not Conquista or Riberas or La Plata, but Campo Largo has its charms for sure. Our little plaza, the tracks, the Axemen, the Festival of the Axemen. He counts off each of these local sites on skilled fingers when another thought interrupts him. Oh, and yes, the elders used to come all the time. We had our discussions, claro. Lots of great conversations about scripture and Joseph Smith and everything. I attended the branch too. But... He holds up a finger. Hold up. I think I perceived a flash as some other emotion crossed his features, but it went as fast as it came. Not only that. He scoots back into his chair, its wheels clacking slightly against the tiled floor, and pulls open a drawer. Digging around in for it a couple of moments, he retrieves one of those booklets of 3x5 photos. He flips through the pages until about 2/3 of the way through, he finds what he's looking for and passes it across the desk to me. I take the small album in my hands and look at the photo. In the foreground is a low grill of an asada spread with meats and sausages and such. Squatting behind it is a younger hermano Drubek, smiling and holding grilling utensils. He's obviously preparing the asada. And behind him are no fewer than 8 missionaries of various species. The landscape, barely visible behind them, stretches into the distance, only interrupted by trees and, on the right, by a single-story structure backlit by the sun. I realize that all this time that I've been scouring the species index in my brain, trying to place Drubek. The beak shape screams Corvid, but not crow or raven or jay. Inspecting the beaked face in the photo, I settle on my best guess. Magpie. Probably magpie. Which I have no idea how to say in Spanish. After taking in the image, I pass it over to Elder Suárez. I got a little chacra with a quinta out in Campo, almost Monte, a few kilometers out of town. He thinks for a moment. Not to be confused with spiritual chakras, of course. Despite myself, I smirk at the pun. In Paranero Spanish, a chacra is a plot of land. A quinta is a small rural house, often used as a vacation home. I pick up my yet untouched orange soda and take a sip. It's delightfully cold and fizzy, one of the better local brands, perhaps Cabalgara. Yes, you can taste the difference. It was their P-Day, so we made arrangements for the elders from Tres Lagunas and Arambura to meet up here for an asada. Tres Lagunas is the town further down the highway with a branch. We'll probably go there for a companionship exchange sometime. Drubek's tone, coupled with the expression in the photo, indicates that this was a fond memory. That was great. His tone gains hints of lament as Elder Suárez hands the album back, the avian taking it in one hand and considering it. Not too long before they left here, though. The missionaries, that is. I was, well, saddened to hear that they'd gone. He lies the album on the desk with a lingering look, then brightens up. You'd hardly have known that he'd been nearly mourning a second before. But now, you're back. And not quite sure what to say now. Yes, we have returned. I grin. What are we supposed to do? Just ask about the past 7 years? The baptism thing? Well, yes, we are supposed to ask just that. I just can't figure out a way to segue into it. Turns out that I don't need to, though, because... So, what does this mean? Know your truth. Elder Suárez is pointing down at the flyer with a forefinger, referring to the slogan printed there. Oh, that. He leans back in his chair, spreading his arms to indicate the whole of the office, certificates, books, and other paraphernalia. I know it's not exactly on the straight and narrow, so to speak, but simply put, I like to help people. Help people get to know themselves, help them figure out what to do, help them know what to expect from an uncertain future. Kind of like what you do, honestly. His apparently professional enthusiasm here is tempered with trepidation. I know we Mormons believe a lot of things that others view as odd, but the church isn't precisely friendly to astrology, hypnotism, New Age stuff. He's running a bit of interference for himself, preemptively. We know that there are lots of unseen forces that influence our lives. I make it a practice to try to see them, in my own ways. It's a service, you know. Again, the sort of thing that I should be saying dies on my tongue, as it would come out antagonistic or at least awkward. That this sort of superstition isn't really compatible with... What sorts of things do you do to help people? Well, that's an approach. And it opens Strubeck right up again. Oh, there are lots of ways. You know how much you can learn about a person from the shape of their face, hands, or handwriting, let alone... Oh! He spins around and pulls a box from the bookshelf behind him, spinning the rest of the way back to face us. He's already shaking something out of the box into one hand. It looks like a deck of cards, though larger than normal playing cards. With his free hand, he shoves some papers off the side to uncover the polished but worn wooden desk. That done, he splits the deck in half and rifles the cards together, once, twice, a couple more times. Elder Suárez and I watch in silence. In sync, we shift forward slightly, trying to see what he's doing. So, this is one way to get a glimpse into what's to come, what we can prepare for. Cards? Special cards. He rifles them together a couple more times, straightening the deck one last time. He places it on one end of the clear desk and in an unmistakable practice move, uses the palm of one hand to spread the cards into an evenly spaced fan. Strubeck is still radiating his excitement, but there is a new glint to his dark irised eyes. I'd almost call it conspiratorial, but not quite. It reawakens and heightens the unease I felt upon perusing the room earlier. He waves his hand across the arc of cards, displaying them to us like a game show host. So, pick a card. Elder Suárez beats me to it, plucking one card out, looking it over with an examining eye. I figured that I'll hang on and not pick mine until I see what's happening here. Well, what did you get? Elder Suárez places the card face up on the desk. It says Knight of Swords. I've never heard of such a card. Unable to contain my curiosity, I rise a couple of inches off my chair to get a good look at the image. Dashing into the frame is a mounted figure, clad in armor. His visor is raised, canine snout fully visible, tongue hanging out. He holds a sword forward as if to pierce an enemy in the onrush. His white Theric horse has its legs straight out in the unrealistic running pose that you see in art from the centuries before photography deciphered the gallop. Ah, interesting. Very interesting indeed. Drubik strokes his longer beak with his right hand, tilting his head sideways to look at the card with one eye. After a few seconds, he sits back. Elder Suárez, the Knight of Swords is a sign of confidence, but confidence that can run off in unhelpful directions. My advice would be to move with deliberation, patience, and empathy, remembering that any single goal, any rule, perused to the exclusion of other concerns can end in harm. He smirks. If God wanted you to be a train, to barrel forward on a single path, he'd have given you wheels and rails instead of legs and feet. As Drubik is doing his reading of the card, my brain can't help but hear it as a fortune cookie advice, vague enough to apply to almost any situation, so you can say that to anyone and still make yourself sound wise. But my stomach, for some reason, is twisting up in knots, recoiling in anticipation of what? Humoring an old investigator who, despite eccentricity, seems friendly enough? Indulging unseriously in harmless superstition? A fortune cookie? My cognitions don't quite the butterflies, and Drubik's gaze shifting to me doesn't help. Elder Heartly? Again, he gestures towards the arc of cards with hand and eyes, inviting me to draw one. Can't harm anything. Hopefully. I reach out. I hover my hand over the cards back and forth, slightly, ignoring the two sets of eyes on me. I descend on one, pinning it under a hoof tip and sliding it towards me. I can't very well pick it up directly off the desk, so I slide it towards myself, past the forgotten tray of cookies and soda all the way over to our edge of the desk. Once the card peeks over the desk's edge, I bring my thumb to meet it. I lift and tilt it into my sight. A ghostly horse with blank eyes, clad in a dark ragged cloak, his back to a field of wheat and a sunset, bearing a scythe. The number 13. It's unsettling enough without the label death. A jumble of half-formed thoughts and emotions tumble over each other just below the surface of my consciousness. This is ridiculous, but also creepy. Why am I even doing this? It's a pale horse. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Stay cool. Get out? Why? Just get out? What? Get out now. Memories of talks featuring urgent promptings of the spirit bubble up. I should follow them. But stay cool. I look up. They're both still staring at me. I've been sitting here an awkwardly long time. And now I'm staring back awkwardly, eyes darting between the two onlooking faces. What do I do to extract myself and Elder Suárez from the situation? I can't say that I got a different card that's easily and rapidly falsifiable. Really? Just show the card. On a whim, I look down at my watch in faint surprise. Oh darn, we've actually got to go. Elder Suárez's confusion is legible even on his mostly impassive face. Drubik's disappointment, meanwhile, is nearly tangible. What? So soon? It's hardly been 15 minutes. I stand gathering up my scripture bag. In the same motion, I press the card back down to the desktop face down and slide it over to the rest. Yeah, sorry. We didn't really expect folks to be home and we have another place to be. I shove the card forward, hoping to slide it back into the arc. It doesn't work. I just make a mess. Maybe that's better though, harder to identify the one that I drew. That wasn't slick or subtle at all. Drubik looks down at my hand as I retract it from the disordered pile of cards it's just made. Then he looks back up at me, bewilderment seemingly partnered with hurt. Oh, I can't handle this. Sorry, should have made that clear at the beginning. He picked up the Knight of Swords and laid it face down in among the others, which he halfway gathers. As Elder Suárez rises, following my cue, and we make to move to leave, the avian leaves his cards and scrambles around to the side of the desk. He shakes Elder Suárez's hand. It was really great to meet you. The snake passes out the door and I come snout to beak with Drubik. He presses his hand into mine with what seems to be deliberate gentleness. I'm so glad that you're back in town. Please stop by any time. Of course. Sorry for rushing out. We'll come by another day." He nods. The last thing that I see from him before I turn out into the bright morning sunlight is his hands clasped, wringing each other, and his face looking over at the desk. 2 half-empty glasses of soda and untouched cookies block the view of the cards. We don't stick around to watch the door close, but as we walk away, my ears wheel back to catch it latching. Our feet crunch on the gravel of the road as the birds sing and the breeze rustles the trees. A truck rumbles past on the ruta, muffled and invisible behind the strip of neighborhood that blocks it from sight. Part of me can't believe that I just did that. It was impetuous, entirely irrational. I am ashamed of myself. What was I afraid of? Some random card? Superstitions? The mere mention of death? Sitting transfixed in the gaze of a fictional white horse? I feel blood rush to my ears. I shove the thought down where I try not to hear them. I focus on my hoof steps. Right, left, left, right. It's a bit before Elder Suárez breaks the silence, interrupting my stewing. "Elder, we don't have any other fixed plans." I pause. "Yeah." "Then why did you lighter Hermano Drubeck?" "Well, that's one way to put it. I don't quite know what I'm feeling, let alone how to put it into words. I had a feeling, Elder. Okay, I realize in a split second that likely won't suffice. A bad one. The spirit? I'm not sure. Maybe. I think so." Elder Suárez nods. "I understand. But probably better not to lie all the same." He's not wrong. That lie will rankle me. As will the lie at our farewell. After all, I don't plan on going back to Drubeck's another day. The rest of the morning goes uneventfully. We find out that many from our list of potential investigators no longer live where our records locate them, as expected, after 7 years. Same with some members in the neighborhood. Of course, at many houses we get no response. I mark those down to revisit later. Our conversation wanders, but doesn't return to magpies or cards or potential premonitions. By the time noon rolls around and we return to the bench for lunch, I'm more than damp and almost encrusted in dust. I drop my bag onto the desk and sit down in front of the fan, feeling the air blow past my ears and antlers. I grab my water bottle and empty the full liter into my mouth. Elder Suárez is unfazed, eating his typical quick lunch and proceeding to pack. I make lunch and pack my own overnight bags for zone conference, including suits and our area book, with its handful of investigator teachings records that we filled out. No new records for Drubeck, of course. We didn't teach a lesson, didn't even pray. And I mentally don't intend to return. Then together we dive into companionship study. Without investigators to visit the next day, we decide to do a deep dive into Chapter 8 of Preach My Gospel, all about effective time management. That's followed by language study, wherein I have Elder Suárez read aloud from Our Search for Happiness, the most colloquially written book of the 4 in the approved missionary library. English is a phonetic nightmare, but at least I can help him form his serpentine lips and tongue around some unfamiliar vowel shapes. Then 1500 hours hits, time to leave for the terminal. We kneel for our leaving the bench prayer and then, shouldering our backpacks, venture out throughout the blast of hot, heavy January air. As we approach the terminal though, it's evident that something is amiss. There is a crowd and as we round the corner, we see there are no buses. A tan canine with a dark snout stomps away from the ticket window towards a hyena waiting nearby, gesturing backwards in frustration and muttering something that I can't quite catch. I approach the ticket window. Elder Suárez hovers over my shoulder. 2 for Conquista, please? The attendant, a harried-looking avian of some sort, wags a finger at me. Sorry, we can't sell any tickets today. Sorry? No tickets? You haven't heard? They cut off the ruta, not letting anything into, out of, or through Aramburu. Or Campo Largo for that matter. Who cut off the ruta? ¿Qué sé yo? What do I know? Turn on your TV, your radio. Next. He waves me off and repeats his spiel to the lizard behind me. We wander over the edge of the crowd and stop. Well, that's no good. Certainly not. The bad feeling is back, lurking nearly imperceptible in my torso, limbs, and tail. Want to call the zone leaders? I'll try to figure out what's going on. Yeah, good idea. Elder Suárez goes over to the German shepherd who stormed away from the window, still talking with the hyena, and asks something that I can't quite hear. Meanwhile, I pull out the phone and dial up the zone leaders from the contact list. Hola, Elderes. I turn away and begin pacing as I often do when I'm on the phone. Elder de Silva, hi. We're here at the terminal and they're saying that there aren't any buses going through Aramburu. Do you know what's going on? I can hear a frustrated, tired sigh. Yeah, seems he does. See, Elder. Seems like local farmers, ranchers, that sort have gone and parked their heavy equipment on the ruta. On all the ways in and out of Aramburu. Something about protesting new taxes. Well, that would do it. I'm looking down, watching my hooves tread atop the concrete, accumulating bits of dust bit by bit as I pace, as I trace and retrace my steps along the outer wall of the terminal. So, we can't get you out either. We spoke with Presidente. We're working on it, but we'll probably just have a smaller zone conference here once all this gets sorted out. None of us will be able to make it tomorrow. Sorry for the bad news, Elder. We'll probably just have a smaller zone conference here once all this gets sorted out. Sorry for the bad news, Elder. Did he just repeat that line? Yeah, that's all right. Stay sit. The phone jolts out of my hand, clattering. Because my antlers strike something. Something soft but solid. I stagger back and look at what I, in my inattentive absorption, have walked into. A dark wall of curves resolves into the shape of back muscles under a black t-shirt, shoulder blades at eye level. Emerging from the sleeves are two large arms covered in short white fur. I look up to see a similarly white-furred snout turn to look at me. My heart skips a beat. A horse's snout. ¿Qué pensa que hace, chamigo? My brain barely processes the words. They barely even make it through the clamor of Claxton that blazed to life, raucous and insistent inside my skull. I back away, holding up my hands. Disculpe, disculpe. Lo siento. The horse's brow is furrowed as he stares at me, blue irises nearly glowing in the afternoon sun. He lets a snort out of his nostrils. I just stabbed him. With my antlers. I get far enough away, the horse hasn't moved, that I can see Elder Suárez again, still talking with the hyena and the canine. Elder. He turns to look over at me. My voice isn't playing nice with me, it cracks a bit. Vamos. He gives me a look, then nods. He turns back to his interlocutors, ends the conversation, and walks over. The last that I see, the horse has raised an eyebrow, as if about to ask a question, but I turn away. When Elder Suárez reaches me, I begin to walk away from the terminal. He follows. Are you all right, Elder? No. I am very much not. That's why he's asking. But there's no way that I can explain it that doesn't sound insane. Yeah, you're just annoyed. I tap one finger against the opposite thumbnail as I formulate my words. I'm annoyed, I'll admit. I was looking forward to the zone conference, and I'm upset that we can't do anything about it. I don't want the attention on myself, though. I changed the subject. What did you find out? Apparently, the government raised export taxes on agricultural products, including soy, sunflower, and cotton. So the farmers are protesting. They've parked their trucks and harvesters on the rutas all over Llano. Basically, what Elder De Silva said. That's inconvenient. Zone conferences are fun in their own way. You get to meet other missionaries, you get to hear other stories, you get to learn from others' experiences. And I'll admit, it's a break from the everyday monotony. Though right now, I could really just use a distraction, any distraction from the cards and shame and Stop it. I take a breath through my nose. There's the wood smoke smell again, and I let it out through my mouth. Okay. So, if we're not going to Conquista, we have an entire evening, 6 hours, with no plans. I mentally shove aside the despair that sometimes sneaks in when there are hours to go and insufferable plans. There are more important things that I need to combat. Is that a challenge? There's his understated smirk again. Why not? I pull out my master list of backup plans. In the end, and to be honest, it's not the worst afternoon. No one's interested, but that's normal. We just entertain ourselves with little games, guessing how long our conversations will be with each contact before we make it, how many people on our list will actually be home. I won that one. I guess one person would be at home. Elder Suárez guessed two. The answer was 0. It's only when I'm emptying my pockets back on the bench, 2100 hours, that I realize something. I pat down each pocket a second time. I empty my scripture bag. It's not there. It's not on me anywhere. I don't have the phone. Frantically, I think back through the day to where I'd seen it last. It takes me a while to remember. I never actually finished my call with Elder De Silva, and then in my rush to get away I'd left the phone. On the ground, by the terminal, in the middle of a crowd of strangers. It's deeply embarrassing, but I tell Elder Suárez that I think that I left the phone at the terminal. He doesn't ask for elaboration, thank heavens, and we head out. After hours, the sun sunk below the horizon and eastern sky already blackening, to see if anyone turned it in at the ticket kiosk. Nope. On the way back, we detour to pass by a telecabina, where I call the zone leaders to report my shame. I'm lucky that I wrote their numbers down on my agenda. They'll relay the request for a new phone to Elder Taborda, the material secretary. They don't think that it'll be a big deal. It'll probably be a couple of days at least, especially with the ruta blockaded. My ears burn throughout the entire conversation. I want to turn invisible. We trudge home through the oncoming dark. I muse humorlessly that we are essentially cut off from the outer world, physically and verbally. Not quite a happy thought. And that night, my self-directed recrimination keeps me up, unhelpfully ruminating, long past 22:30 hours. In addition to the unflattering stare of light-colored equines. I shudder. But I eventually doze off. January 15th, 2008, Tuesday. And I still awaken early. After several fitful hours, wherein my mind, halfway between dreaming and waking, replay and remix scenes and emotions from the day over and over and over. Cards, crowds, Corvids. Noticing that I've lost something, left it somewhere, looking. Missed the buses, siege engines on the ruta, behind them their captain, a white horse, now besides me. I open my eyes and beckon sight to dispel the dream's images and sensations. I do not feel rested. The clock reads 5:47. Why is the sun so bright already? I decide to complain to the skies. We've passed the summer solstice. Days should be getting shorter. Something reminds me that we're nearer to the equator than back home. There's not much variation in the day length. I mentally chide my internal astronomers. I groan audibly and roll over to my side, facing the wall. I want more sleep. There's also a mission rule, right there in the handbook, that you shouldn't wake up early or go to bed late to have time alone. This restlessness isn't intentional, heavens knows, but I don't want to appear to run afoul of that regulation. I close my eyes to shut out the world and try to distract my mind by focusing on the abstract dancing patterns of phantom light behind my eyelids. It works for a bit, and I can almost feel myself drifting back into unconsciousness. But then the light coalesces into two shining orbs. They're featureless, no pupils or irises, but I know that they're eyes, and they're staring at me. I open my eyes. It's barely been 10 minutes. Elder Suárez, I reason, will understand that I am not flouting rules. Slowly, carefully, I move myself over to the edge of the bed and swing myself out. I step lightly so that my hooves only make the lightest clicks on the tile. I move past my companion's bed, walking with the assistance of the dim light. I turn into the windowless bathroom. The outlines of the toilet and calefón appear. My eyes catch my silhouette passing by the mirror. I know that it's dark, I won't see anything, and I'm not inclined to turn on the fluorescent bulb, too harsh for now. But I turn and look away. I jump, gasp. My heart leaps into overdrive. There in the mirror, bracketed by my ears and antlers, where my eyes should be. Where my eyes are. I see for a split second. Two circles. Glowing. Chapter 2. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So, it seems that the whole tarot card reading has left a very big impression on Elder Heartly. And it is true that with most religions, be it Catholic, Christian, Mormon, Protestant, what have you, it's usually frowned upon to delve into like this type of thing, like the spiritualism, the occult, whatever the magpie has decided to, I guess, partake in, or I mean, is it really partaking? It's more like he uses that in his own whatever it is that he does. Um and for these two Mormon boys, especially for Elder Heartly, it's sort of like, oh, tarot cards, okay. And at the very least, it seemed like Elder Suárez was sort of humoring the bird, but Elder Heartly looked visibly uncomfortable with it, especially when he drew the card. And then having to bump into a white horse while he's having like this little discussion with his zone leader about like what's going on. It's like, oh, it visibly left it left him pretty spooked. Um but now eyes. I mean, you could technically say that, oh well, it's because animals, their eyes reflect light, especially deers. Like the whole expression of deers and headlights, when they see the light, it reflects in their eyes and then it's like they just freeze. But like, hmm, could that really be what's happening? Huh. Anywho, what are your thoughts? Write it down in the comments, and thank you all for watching/listening. If you would like to play Campo Largo yourself, you can do so by going down to the link in the description, which should have a direct link for the itch.io page where you can download and play the game yourself. They do have a Ko-fi and a Patreon, I saw right there. This is only the first route, the first completed route. So if you would like to support the project, then do so. You know, they do have means of support. They do have a Discord also in case you want to talk to them about that. I know, funnily enough, that there is actually a good handful, at least probably in the US, I guess, of ex-Mormon furries. So, like, yeah, this story might resonate with you or them in some way. So, yeah. I do know that when I initially posted the videos, there were some people that were actually surprised and actually kind of like into the story, despite the fact that it's its religious undertones, and you know how religion goes ever so well with, you know, the LGBT and stuff like that. But yeah, so hop on their Discord, discuss, download the game and play it yourself. But yeah, also, in case you want to support the channel, become a channel member, gives you earlier access to these videos as they're being scheduled, and it does help support me and the channel, of course, like I said. So yeah, like, support, and I give you the chance to watch these videos as they're being scheduled. Um, I also have a Ko-fi in case you don't want to do that and you just want to donate. There's that too. And I do have a throne, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.